Back in 2017, we lifted the lid on some of the hidden, behind-the-scenes tricks that game developers use to make you feel like a badass who's doing a lot better than they actually are. From always having the baddie's first shot miss you, to valuing the last bit of your health bar more than the others, to having people turn up to your birthday party. Only in video games. That's not the only way that video games work away in the background to boost your self-esteem though. There are plenty more examples, and we've picked 7 of our favourites that, be warned, once seen cannot be unseen. You're still good at games though, no worries on that front. Roll the spoiler crawl, this is getting awkward.
Resident Evil 4 is a long game full of traps, dangers, angry people wielding farming equipment, and towering, terrifying bosses. And yet, when you think back on Resident Evil 4, you'll likely remember it as having pitch-perfect difficulty. Not too easy, but not so difficult that you kept running into roadblocks. As will everyone else watching this video. Weird that.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Well, it turns out that this is by design. Resident Evil 4 features a hidden dynamic difficulty setting that scales the number of enemies and how aggressive they are by how well you're playing. If you're accurate and avoiding taking damage, the enemies will become more aggressive and hurt you more if they get you. If you're flailing into every ganado face first and have trouble hitting the broadside of a barn, you'll find the enemies become more passive, do less damage, and sometimes don't even spawn if you're having a real nightmare out there. As such, regardless of how you're playing Resident Evil 4, you're probably going to feel like you're just making it through, scraping by thanks to your skill and resourcefulness, even if you suck. By far our favourite example of Resident Evil 4's dynamic scaling for maximum awesomeness, however, comes in the form of the second fight with scarred-up military badass Krauser. Your first encounter with Krauser takes the form of a QTE-heavy cutscene knife fight in which the two of you try your best to jam a foot of pointy metal into each other. That fight ends inconclusively, but don't worry, you'll get another chance later on when you run into Krauser for round 2, at which point you might decide that the most emotionally satisfying weapon to use would be your trusty knife. And if you do decide that, Resident Evil 4 has your back. Usually the knife is easily the weakest weapon in the game, doing a paltry 0.6 damage to enemies. In this particular boss fight, however, the knife gets an astonishing 100 times damage boost, meaning you can defeat Krauser with only about 15 swipes of your blade. Which, I mean, is still a lot of stabbing, but hey, if it means I never have to use my precious magnum ammo even once, I'm all for it.
Well, well, well. Welcome to my lair. Let me just flag something up. According to the control panel light up there, the entire building is going to self-destruct in about 6 minutes. I'm pretty sure it's a problem with the light. I think the light's on the blink, but just in case it isn't, I am actually going to have to kill you.
Science has yet to explain why one portal must be blue and one portal must be orange, but you need one portal of each colour to create a successful link between two locations. That's just physics. Portal 2 teaches you this fundamental rule from the get-go, but mistakes will always happen. Still, normally if you accidentally pop an orange portal where you meant to pop a blue one, you just have to take a deep breath, forgive yourself, and do it again. But get it right this time, you idiot. Whoa, hey, enough with the negative self-talk. Be nice to yourself. After battling your way to the high-stakes confrontation at the end of Portal 2, however, the very last thing you need is to humiliate yourself in front of your nemesis, Wheatley.
Just making me stronger, love. It's a fool's errand.
Can you imagine how embarrassing it would be at this late stage in the game to confuse your orange portal and your blue portal, and with GLaDOS watching?
This one should do it.
You'd never live it down. Also, you'd be dead. And you don't want to go to heaven all embarrassed, thinking about how you choked under pressure for the rest of eternity.
What? Are you still alive?
But under pressure like this, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that at the critical do-or-die moment, when you need to pull off something incredibly cool and also not die, you'll muck it up. I'm talking about this moment here, when you need to shoot the moon with a blue portal because there's an orange portal parked underneath Wheatley. So guess what happens if you do panic and hit the wrong button for the wrong portal? Oh, that's right. The game ignores you, generously intuiting that you meant to fire a blue portal instead of an orange one because of course you did. Interrupting this climactic set piece over something as trivial as the wrong coloured portal would be pedantic, Portal 2 seems to say. Please enjoy the end of the game. And so you do, feeling like an heroic badass who would never confuse blue and orange. Man, I hope GLaDOS was watching that.
Sareth, my faithful disciple, your father would be proud to see you this day. Initiated into the arts of magic, a fierce and noble warrior.
In Arcane's Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, released in 2006, you play as an apprentice wizard who has spent years studying the arts of magic, as well as honing his skills with a blade, to better aid him in his quest to retrieve a mystical artifact known as the Skull of Shadows. Then you discover that pressing F makes you do a big kick, and all that goes out of the window, as do several unlucky enemies, because the kick in Dark Messiah of Might and Magic is amazing, and you never need a second offensive move. Credit to Arcane, they realised how fun the kicking is in their swords and sorcery game, and really lent into it, adding environmental hazards such as ledges,
Kick him over the edge. Be efficient, Sarah.
spikes, and fires for you to kick your unlucky foes into. This is helped along by a little bit of behind-the-scenes tweaking as well, which makes the kick more powerful when you're using it near one of these environmental hazards, so that you can be sure that your enemy is going to fly awesomely off a ledge,
Instead of just standing here.
into some deadly spikes, or just catch on fire, at which point you can kick them again. If this seems familiar, it's because Arcane went on to include a similarly powerful kick in their most recent game, Deathloop, which, if you've not tried kicking people off things in that, go do that now. Go on, this video will still be here. We'll be waiting for you when you get back.
It is a truth universally acknowledged that shooting an enemy, then having them take a dramatic tumble off a roof, over a railing, or into a nasty-looking pit is 10 times cooler than just shooting them and then they fall down on the floor, something that games have known before they even went 3D. You may have noticed, however, that in a lot of shooting games, shooting an enemy near a ledge causes them to go dramatically tumbling off it, way more often than you'd expect. And as ever, the reason behind this isn't your amazing gunslinging skills, but rather some clever systems working away behind the scenes to ensure that your enemies plummet to their final resting place as often as possible. The most common technique is setting ledges and railings as ragdoll magnets, so that when an enemy dies and they go limp, they are then magnetically attracted to the ledge, which triggers an animation of them somersaulting off into oblivion. You can see this in loads of games, but most obviously in the Red Dead Redemption series, which loves people being spectacularly launched off high ledges, even more than it loves gruff men telling each other that their time has passed. Which is to say a lot.
Heads up, wonderful! Fracas was most helpful to my studies on bullymong social structures. Return to the bounty board at your earliest convenience.
In games with a levelling system, there is no greater feeling than levelling up. It's concrete proof of your skill and determination, and as a bonus, you'll get extra skill points, attributes and powers to play around with. This time, you'll be unstoppable. Okay, in most games with a levelling system this is the case, but it is even more so in Borderlands 2, which has a hidden mechanic that gives you a massive, minute-long damage boost whenever you level up. In addition to the usual audio-visual fanfare, this behind-the-scenes Borderlands buff doubles your damage output for 60 seconds, making you feel much more powerful than you actually are, something you probably attribute to your newly attained level. What it means in practice is that you can wreck everyone you're currently fighting with ease, and then settle in to pore over your new options in the skill tree. That's not the only time Borderlands 2 gives you this kind of secret damage boost either. You also get one if you manage to fight your way out of near death in Fight for Your Life mode. When your second wind activates, you'll get a shorter but still significant damage bump to let you feel like you've fought your way back and are now straight back into the thick of it, killing enemies and doing serious damage. So if anyone asks why I'm constantly in Fight for Your Life mode, I'm just tactically exploiting a damage boost, okay? It's tactics.
On the move! I'm gonna count your life! Where's the penguin? I don't know. Where is he? I swear. Damn.
From his earliest TV days, Biff and kapowing bad guys, to his movie days training to be a ninja with Liam Neeson, Batman is quite good at fighting, we're told. And nowhere is this more clear than in the Batman Arkham games, in which the majority of your time is spent in incredible multi-person, free-flowing balletic combat sequences in which the caped crusader leaps effortlessly between burly convicts, knocking them unconscious with educated fists the size of basketballs. Or at least that's the intention on the part of the developer. In practice, it might be that the person controlling Batman is actually terrible at the game, and without some behind-the-scenes intervention, is going to have turned out to have bought a $60 Batman getting his ass kicked simulator.
Don't give me any room to breathe!
That's why, in Batman Arkham Origins specifically, the AI will give you a break if you're getting beaten too handily in a fistfight. If you jump into a big crowd of foes and get battered almost to death, you'll notice that the enemies suddenly become very passive, almost as if they've realised that fighting a hulking CrossFit enthusiast dressed in unbreakable Kevlar is a bad idea. These sentient punching bags will sit there and absorb your bat punches, occasionally taking a slow, easily counterable swing until you start fighting back with any kind of success, at which point they'll come to their senses. That way, even mediocre fighters get to feel like they tore up a big group of baddies with their ace punching skills, even if they were too busy doing flips to notice that said bad guys weren't really fighting back.
Wait for just...
Or maybe they're all actors paid by Alfred to try and stop young Master Bruce from getting killed out there by real criminals. It's a compelling theory.
Welcome to Chapter 3, where there are brand new places to explore and exciting new ways to experience Fortnite like never before.
Online shooters can be loads of fun, but if you're a new player, the experience can be a bit like putting on a suit made of sirloin and jumping into a shark tank. Such was the case with Fortnite when it first started, when no matter how good you were at shooting, building, and flossing, there was always some 12-year-old with unlimited free time to practice, ready to dome you from half a mile away, and then not even bother to teabag your corpse. Go, 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 go!
Get you!
Oh, no! I mean, it's just common courtesy. At the start of Fortnite Season 2, however, players started noticing that they were doing a lot better than they had done before. Players who were previously Victory Royale-less were now actually achieving this feat for the first time ever, and there was much rejoicing, most likely in the form of vigorous flossing. It turned out, however, that this was the start of Fortnite's skill-based matchmaking system, in which players would start out playing against a much greater proportion of bots than actual human players. According to reports from the time, the first game in Season 2 would contain just 10 real-life human players, while the other 90 would be computer-controlled bots, designed to be easier to kill than humans, but crucially, not identified as bots, so that you still feel awesome when you dispatch them. This practice has persisted in Fortnite with a few tweaks. When you first start out, the majority of players in your game will still be bots, with 75 bots at Tier 1, dropping to 35 bots when you hit Tier 2, and then 20 bots when you hit Skill Tier 3. So yes, I am slightly disappointed to find out that no, actually, I didn't get magically better at Fortnite without practicing, but on the plus side, I do appreciate the effort to spare my feelings by making all the bots look like actual humans, even though that is basically the plot of Terminator. A lot to think about.
Thank you so much for watching this video about developer tricks that made you feel like a total badass. Hopefully, we don't have to trick you into watching another video, either from us up here in the corner, or from our sister channel, Outside Extra, down here. And if you'd really like to support what we do, why not consider joining the OX Supporters Club? There's a link up here somewhere, and details in the description below. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.